Hi, folks. I decided that I need a mission. I'm going to learn to play the violin. These are strange times. Might as well do something kind of strange. This violin has been hanging in the dining room of our house for years. Years and years. This actually is the violin that my great-great-grandfather brought over from England when he was told that he could bring one thing with him. When his family said, "Yep, we're moving to a new country, moving across the ocean." So I thought I should do that thing some justice and finally learn how to play it. I'm dying to learn how to play some East Coast fiddle music. My darling wife and I met in Charlottetown when my mom had a small cottage in PEI, and I was up there with my sister visiting our mom. And so these paintings are from just around the bay from where my mom lived, in a place called North Rustico. And it seems like everybody on the East Coast knows how to play fiddle. So I play a big fiddle. I play a great big bass fiddle, but I've never learned how to play one of these. So I'm going to give it a go. You see, not long after I met my wife, well, maybe a year or so after, and it was clear that we were going to be together for a very long time, my wife's grandmother gave me her grandfather's mandolin. This is back when Mississauga was still farm country. That's when this was made. This one is from 1895, and this is the mandolin that he got. Actually, he was on quarantine. He had chicken pox that summer. It was the summer of his grade 6 year, between grade 6 and grade 7, and he had chicken pox, and he wasn't allowed to see any of his friends or do anything, so he was locked in his bedroom for 6 weeks. And his parents said, "Well, we can get you something." And so anyway, he chose this out of a catalog, the Sears and Roebuck catalog. It was $8 approximately. And you see, a mandolin has the same fingers and the same strings and the same tuning as a violin. Now, this mandolin is done. This is so old that parts of it have caved in inside. And it's not playable, really. It doesn't sound very good. But this is dear to me for lots of sentimental reasons. But one of them is, I don't know if you can see that there, but that signature is, it's there from before I was a school teacher. When I used to work in film and television, and one day I got to meet and have lunch. I sat right beside this man who is considered one of the absolute legends of country music. His name is Willie Nelson, and he very kindly signed this record for my mom, to Pat. That's my mom. Love Willie Nelson, 2002. And he also was kind enough to sign the mandolin here for me. Now, I do have, this is something just this year, actually, I purchased, and some of you saw me wandering around the schoolyard with it, but a beautiful, well, it's a 20-year-old, it's a used mandolin, but it's in much, much, much better shape, and so I'm really enjoying this, and I think it's going to help me learn about playing violin. Here's that big bass fiddle I was talking about. Now, I mostly play it by plucking, like... But I do own a bow for it, and so I did try and learn a little bit about how to bow. But I'm not very good with a bow. And you hold a bow very, very differently for bass rather than for a fiddle that you would play, or a violin that you would play up on your shoulder here. So let's have a look at what a bow has. Well, this is my violin bow. It's not the same bow as the bass. It's much lighter, but it's no longer, or it's no shorter. It's about the exact same length. And you can see why they would call it a bow. I mean, it's not really bent the right way, but you've got these strings on the front. You can kind of imagine pulling it back and shooting an arrow out of it. But these strings on the front, well, they're not strings. These are, well, in the olden days, they made it out of the hair from a horse's tail. It doesn't hurt the horse at all. It's like you or me getting a haircut. They just take off a lock of hair from the horse's tail and put it on this bow, and then you tighten it up. This thing here turns, and this part here is called the frog, and the frog can sort of slide back and forth. I'm going to tighten this up so the frog is pulling back this way, thus making the hairs a lot tighter. You can see these hairs are really loose. I shouldn't even touch them. You're not supposed to touch the hairs, but I'll tighten this up, and the frog pulls backwards a little bit, and there, the hairs are now tight enough. And I have to rub some of this wax on. This is like a mixture of beeswax and tree sap, I think. It's called rosin. And when you rub this on the horsehair, it makes it so that the horsehair is a lot stickier. It sticks to the strings better, which makes the strings shake better. It just sounds a lot nicer. I don't know who would have figured this out, but man, brilliant idea. Okay, there. That's lots of rosin. And I'll set this down. Pick up the violin. Now, luckily for me, I can't believe my luck. Luckily for me, about 20 years ago, I paid about $150 to have this violin brought back into a position where it could be played. When it was first given to me by my family, it hadn't been played in about 40 years, and nobody was taking care of it. So I got some new strings put on, and I got these put on. These are called fine tuners, and they make it a lot easier, because these big tuning pegs here, when I try and tune, they really kind of jump around. You try and tune, and all of a sudden, boink, it goes, too tight, and all of a sudden you're out of tune. And I got a new bridge. So that bridge, well, it's not new anymore. It's 20 years old, but no one's really ever played this violin. So, lucky for me, I have it. And it's in working condition. I'll tune it up and then give it a try. Okay, I'm back. I've tuned it up. G, D, A, E, and I've got my bow rosined, and I've watched a couple of YouTube videos. How do you hold a violin? And so I'll try my best to do what those videos said. But I have to be honest with you. Just by the fact that I'm an adult, well, sometimes I feel like I'm just barely an adult. I feel like I'm more of a kid than an adult. But look, the thing is, my hands have been around now for 45 years, and they've never done this shape before. This is going to take some getting used to for me. This is not a very natural way for me to hold my hand. I'm trying my best, but I know that I'm going to have to get used to that. And certainly holding the bow is not something I feel very confident about either. Okay, enough talk. Let's get on with it. Here we go. Never had one lesson. I watched a YouTube on how my fingers are supposed to go, and I did actually try a do re mi scale, what we call a major scale, that's my goal. I want to play the G major scale several times this week, and I'll see if I can move on next week. one way to go from there. Whoosh, I'm going to get better. Have a good week. Take care.